Now, law enforcement officials from the US Department of Homeland Security have already started visiting Gurdwaras in New York and New Jersey to check for the presence of illegal immigrants, drawing a sharp reaction from some Sikh organizations which see such actions as a threat to the sanctity of their faith. Now, within hours of Donald Trump being sworn in as the 47th President of the United States, Acting Department of Homeland Security Secretary Benjamin Huffman, in a directive, rescinded now the Obama and Biden administration's guidelines. To give you some context, the sensitive locations policy was introduced in 2011 under the Obama administration. It basically prohibited immigration and customs enforcement officials and also the Customs and Border Protection agents from carrying out any enforcement action at sensitive locations, including places of worship, schools and hospitals. So basically, these people who are in charge of ensuring that illegal immigrants are kept in check, they could not enter any place of worship, any school or any hospital. So these were the rules and regulations that had been set in by the Democrats. Now then the Biden administration expanded the definition of sensitive locations to include additional places like homeless shelters and domestic violence shelters. Trump supporters had been vocal for the longest time that these places where illegal immigrants hide, and the Obama-Biden policy prevents the administration from detaining such people who the Trump supporters in fact call aliens. As soon as Trump returned, he rescinded the sensitive locations policy, allowing ICE and CBP agents to conduct raids and also enforcement actions at places of worship, including Gurdwaras, without requiring any prior approval. Now, Sikh organizations have already spoken out, calling the policy change a violation of religious freedom and also a blow to a community that has already faced discrimination, especially after 9/11. On the other side, supporters of the policy argue that no place should be off limits if it's being used to harbor people who are breaking immigration laws. They say it's about fairness and also keeping the country safe. So clearly the debate here on the show and also in the United States is about balancing the need for security with the values of compassion and inclusivity. Joining us right now are our guests on the show, David Sofair, who's a Republican strategist, and also Robinder, who's a founder, president of Imagindia Institute. David, I'll start with you now. The whole argument here, now the decision taken by the Trump administration means that the immigration officials can raid places like schools, hospitals and places of worship. Now, critics argue that the rollback of these protections could erode trust in institutions meant to provide safety and support to citizens, while those in support claim that it ensures no location is used to shield individuals violating immigration laws and potentially also involving themselves in crime and criminal activities. What's your view on this?
Greetings from Washington, D.C. First of all, I would like to say that America has an immigration crisis, and that's at the border, not just at the border, but throughout the entire country. It was what won Donald Trump his election. Also, Democrats who were registered Democrat voters now vote Republican because they have experienced firsthand the large amount of crime, the large amount of gangs and violence that have come in through illegal immigration. So it is a major problem we have here in the United States, and it's one that we have to address. I mean, it just has to be addressed. Now, in regards to schools, hospitals, and places of worship, you know, I see that as a place where it's a slippery slope. But if you commit a crime, you know, we are coming for you, and our tentacles are long, and we need to get this problem sorted out. It's been 89% of Americans feel that illegal immigrants should be detained and deported as well. So this is a bipartisan thing. In respect to our friends, the Democrats, they have destroyed American public safety by decriminalizing crime, especially in major Democrat cities. And they've also had a border that's completely unsecure. So we have thousands of fentanyl deaths as a response, and we don't know who's who in the country, as many people have come into the country not only illegally, but with extensive and expensive criminal records. Now, when they arrive, they are being treated to free healthcare, accommodation, and cash. There are also, in Texas, the young people there were given Kamala Harris coloring books at the American taxpayer dollars expense, of course. So this sort of rhetoric and our sort of crisis that we have there, it's unprecedented, it's unbelievable, and America needs to start healing. Kamala Harris was calling ICE the men and women who risk their lives every day on the front lines. She was calling them akin to the KKK. This is not racism. This is law and order. We are the party of law and order. And just like you, we are the party of democracy. We are the second biggest democracy in the world, respectfully, after our great friends in India. And we're very proud to have had the meeting with Modi, and we look forward to strengthening our partnership. And we thank the Indian citizens who have immigrated to our country legally and contributed so many great things to the country, whether it's
absolutely. David, we'll of course discuss that in detail. And like you pointed out, illegal immigration is an issue not just in the United States, but also in India, of course, a totally different context here. But meanwhile, Robinder, I want to get you here in the conversation now. Obama and Biden ensured that there are certain sensitive locations that are off limits when it comes to such activities. But the Trump administration has now made it very clear that when it comes to national security, you might be hiding in a school, you might be hiding in a hospital, or you might be hiding in a Gurdwara or a church. Doesn't matter. You will be hunted down.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it does mean that. Do you get me? Hello.
All right, Robinder, go ahead.
Can you hear me? Hello.
We can hear you, Robinder. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm not getting your sound.
Robinder,
I'm not getting your sound.
Go ahead.
Please.
We can hear you.
Oh, yeah, sure. Thanks. Really sorry. Okay. See,
all right.
I mean, bottom line is that, you see, it boils down to the liberal Democrat worldview versus the conservative Republican worldview, right? Democrats are more a party and leaning towards a political ideology of concern for minorities, compassion, maybe we could say, though I would not say that the conservatives do not have compassion. They also have a lot of compassion, right? But it's the Democrats which are typically the liberal end of the spectrum. So that's the bottom line, what you're seeing. And with Trump coming, they're enforcing what they want to enforce. Before going on this, quickly, I'll come back to the Modi-Trump phone call. As of now, I think details are not available, but I could speculate there would be 4 topics they would have discussed. One would have been not an invitation, but yes, an invitation and a finalization of the date for the Quad. The Quad meeting is supposed to be held in India this year. Minister Jaishankar was there, meeting with Secretary of State. So, I mean, that means maybe by April, Trump visits India about the Quad. So that would have been one. Other than Modi ji congratulating Trump, it's first. Second would have been a trade agreement. You see, the matter of tariffs between the US and India is definitely complicated, but I think at the highest levels of the leaders, they would perhaps not be talking specifics, they'll be talking the big picture. And in the big picture, what the US and India need to do is to get together on a trade agreement, which will then, of course, resolve many of these, hopefully, these tariff issues. Another topic I think they would have discussed, and there's a line from the readout today which says they spoke on world peace, which I assume implies a resolution or peace in Ukraine, because India has offered and India is working towards resolving the Ukraine conflict. And on the other hand, Trump has said, within days, but now he says within 100 days or, 6 months or something like that. So that's where a huge convergence between India and the US is. So that would have been a discussion. So these 3 points, date for the Quad meetings, focus on or a discussion of, a trade agreement between the US and India, which will, fold into its fold the issue of tariffs, and then on world peace, etc., Ukraine, and then, of course, on immigration, yes, India would have assured, if that topic would have come up, that yes, we will take care of our citizens wherever in the world they are. So that's the Modi-Trump thing. Now back to immigration. So on immigration, we will see more and more of such raids. The ICE have been given a target. I think each office has been given a target of 75 individuals per day. So that could, unfortunately, that could I mean, it could be a realistic basis, but it could also drive people to meet their targets. And in that process, some people may get,
exactly, Robinder, that's the big concern here. You say that there has been, of course, a target given to these agents to identify, for example, 75 illegal immigrants every single day. Do you think just to meet that target, a lot of people who might not actually be illegally immigrated to the United States, do you think a lot of people, innocents as well, might be targeted?
Yes, a lot of that may be targeted, but much more than that, what will happen is that you will see much more of these ICE agents visible on, on bus stations, on the metro, on the schools, on the malls, or wherever, etc. And, they've also been asked to wear their jackets, which clearly indicate that they're part of the ICE raid teams, because the Trump administration wants to spread the message that we are on the job. So what you will see is that, sure, several or some innocents would also be, caught in this whole momentum. But what you will see is much more visible presence and proactively even going into places of work, because they have that mandate now. Forget the sensitive places, which they were not supposed to. But now, they can go into a Walmart, they can go into a Subway or a 7-Eleven, or they can go to a gas station. So anywhere they could be going in and just asking people for their documents. So that would be the even bigger, in a bigger picture, the scare or the perception of what these are to bring. And then, yes, of the people they round up, several or few could be definitely, because anytime you set such targets, you're inviting corruption, you're inviting, overzealous officers 100%. Doing their jobs. Because end of the day, they have to report and say that, okay,
absolutely. And Robinder, I'm not sure if this is the sort of picture that Donald Trump wants to paint, the fact that you have people standing in schools, in hospitals, in various other institutions, grabbing people by the collar and dragging them because they believe they're illegal immigrants. Now, David, that brings me to the next point here. Now, it's not just Gurdwaras, it's not just mosques that are on the list here, also churches. Now, if I'm not mistaken, various church organizations have already expressed concerns. They've already said that the fact that churches and schools will also now be, actions will be carried out in churches and schools also, it's not a very pretty picture. You don't want such activities happening in a place which actually provides healing and care. These are words of various Catholic organizations. So how does Donald Trump deal with them now?
Sure. Now, look, these are good points, and we appreciate your concerns. At the end of the day, when somebody is in violation of the law and they commit these felonies, which illegal immigration is, the government now is not going to wait around for a time when it's convenient for you to come and find you. And this is a deterrent as well. I think that in the beginning of it, these raids, they cannot be corrupt at all, because I think the 75-person thing is a very realistic target, as we have 12 million undocumented illegal immigrants here. And that's just in the past few years. So a lot's got to be done, and this is a good thing. This will ensure public security and lower our crime rate, and give people that come into the country legally a chance and a fair chance to get the education they need, to get the work and opportunity they need as well, in a safe way as well. These people are unvetted. The border's been wide open, so we don't know who's who, and it's going to take a long while to figure this out. In the meantime, Obama's foreign policy.
But David, I totally understand. And some critics might now say,
so the
what you're doing is right, but how far is too far? How are you going to ensure that this is limited to only immigration and does not cross a boundary and become racial profiling? Because there are chances of that happening as well. We saw what happened after 9/11, so there's a fear that this could also happen.
It's completely different, because as far as immigration goes, and this is not racist at all, the policy at the border, you have people coming in from over 70 different countries, right? And we have no idea who these people are. We don't know their names. We don't know their passports. We don't know what they've done. So you have a multitude of different people coming over. So to restore law and order and common sense and safety, okay, we are the party of safety and common sense and law and order, and we extend it to everybody, so it's blanket. Remember the idea that following the law of democracy. And by the way, the 14th Amendment does not, you've had guests and people on there that keep going on about the 14th Amendment. That does not constitute illegal immigration at all whatsoever, or violent and nefarious criminals coming over from, whatever country illegally. So, this whole thing, it's unbelievable that we're even having a discussion about criminals.
But David, the whole point of the debate today is how is the Trump administration going to ensure that lines are not crossed? Because what you're doing, nobody's saying you're pulling out the wrong people and you're targeting a particular community. But the problem, the concern here, you need to understand this, the concern here is that how do you ensure that a line is not crossed? Because now when you step into religious structures, religious organizations, there is a certain sanctity attached to these places. So how do you ensure that while you continue to carry out your job at hand, you also maintain a balance between respect for a particular culture? How are you going to balance this?
Well, whilst the police have the powers to do that, are they going to do it? And I think in the beginning, absolutely not. The core focus is getting out the illegal, undocumented people that are involved in crime. So that is the first priority there. You've got Tren de Agua, which is a Venezuelan terror group. Since they've entered the United States, crime in Venezuela has gone down 38%. It's huge. Okay, they are causing terror on the streets, and we're going after the most draconian, violent gangs first. Okay, so now just because they have the power to go into a place of worship or a school, I think that's a sideline, and it won't be done. Look, if you break the law in America, the federal government does not discriminate who you are, what religion you are, what color you are. They're coming after you. And if you're in a church or a school, unfortunately, they've got those rights as well to come and find you in there. So I think that this is, the party is over for illegal aliens and criminals, coming into our country. And, it's just law and order has to be restored. And we look forward to restoring legal immigration and legal democracy within our country.
Absolutely. All right. David, totally your point taken. You, of course, said that the party is over for illegal aliens, but also at the same time, there are a lot of people who have immigrated legally, hold proper visas, and of course, have all the right to stay in America. And probably some of them are also as much Americans as you guys are from the Republican Party. But also at the same time, I think the big debate here is to ensure that while you ensure that the national security is kept at the forefront, it's also important to ensure that communities are not hurt. And also all of this that the Trump administration is trying to do is done in a manner that does not hurt any community. All right. David Sofair, Robinder, Sachdev, really appreciate you joining us on the broadcast here. It's been a very insightful discussion on what Trump administration is calling an action against aliens. Well, of course, we're getting you more details on that and a lot more. But on that note, it's a wrap on this edition of the broadcast. Lots more lineup on the other side. Stay tuned.